my generation, and obviously the generation before probably had it even worse in terms of understanding what their hormones were even up to. But my first memories of learning about periods was just fear.
On this episode of Spility with LLIB, we are interviewing the amazing Lucy Patel. Can you share with our listeners more about your business and the unique aspects that sets it apart?
Yeah. So I'm a women's health nutritionist. I was a project manager for 12 years, sort of fell into a job like a lot of people do in their 20s. Yeah. And I decided to retrain in 2017. So I did a 3-year diploma in nutrition. I graduated in 2021 and then I just quit my job as a project manager. Started my business up, didn't have any clients, anything, just thought. I had 2 young kids. So my children were 3 and not even 1 at that point. Wow. So there was all sorts going on. In hindsight, maybe wasn't the best planned decision, but I thought if I try and do part-time project management, that's what the business is never going to take off. So I just quit. So I opened my business in September 2021 and you have to niche down. They say if you're going to nutrition, you have to really like find your, what niche really sort of sets you alight, if that makes sense. And having had 2 children and all the challenges that come with that, the women's health niche really was calling to me. I had a lot of friends who were struggling with whether it was their cycle, fertility, perimenopause. So I just thought this feels like a really good space for me to go into. So I run, so I do one-to-one work with clients on all aspects of hormone health. Ultimately, that is trying to help educate women on their cycle, on their hormones, rather than this battle that a lot of people feel like they're constantly having. Like, I'm having a week of really bad PMS every month or whatever it might be. So I started doing a lot of one-to-one work, but I am now really trying to branch out into the sort of corporate workplace wellness aspect, because it's getting a lot more talk now, which is great. But, women who are going through perimenopause at work, women with very demanding jobs who really still want to be killing it at their career, but all of a sudden they're like, I can't do this job anymore. My confidence is gone, or whatever it might be. And I also do work in fertility as well.
Wow.
So helping women have babies, which is just wonderful. It's been a tough, the business is 2.5 years old now. And like I said, in hindsight, I would have maybe done things a little bit differently, because I've had my own challenges with getting a business off the ground with 2 young children. My husband's also he set a business up at the same time. So the stress has been high, and I noticed the impact that has had on my own cycle, my own symptoms. I see my cycle get shorter on months when I'm really stressed. And then at Christmas, it stretches out again.
It's crazy,
it's so incredible. And I think one of the, having 2 daughters, I don't want them to have 100%. The same experience that my generation, and obviously the generation before probably had it even worse in terms of understanding what their hormones were even up to. But, my first memories of learning about periods was just fear. It was, you had the talk at school and they give you this leaflet with like 20 products and you're just like, Jesus, like,
they even give you some products, don't they? And you're like, what?
These ones, these have got wings, these are extra absorbent. And you're like 11 years old and you're just like, this looks horrendous. And I was lucky, like my periods were very, they were they were like regular, didn't have any issues. But obviously so many women, from the minute they start puberty, their period is just the bane of their life. They're just struggling month after month. And I just remember all of the negatives. It was, you can't do sport, like you can't wear white jeans, even though nobody wears white jeans. And it wasn't an empowering place to be as a female, to have this cycle and just think that it was just going to get in the way of everything. It was just a negative. So we were taught about the period, but then that 21 days after, there was none of that talk around how great you're going to feel mid-cycle and how creative you're going to feel and how you feel more sociable. And so a lot of what I do with, I'd say my clients who are slightly young, like in like 20s, 30s, is helping them live in a better alignment with their cycle. So understanding why certain things they just feel like they can't turn their hand to, but it's like, well, you're on day 27, so you're not going to feel like killing it at the gym, and you're probably not going to feel like going out, but that's okay. You have to lean into that and understand that that's supposed to happen, and it's giving your body telling you to slow the hell down and then, you know, kickstart everything, you know, give yourself that week to just calm down a little bit and just go a bit more inward and rest and allow yourself to rest, which we're just so bad at. We're just constant 24/7 all the time.
Do you know, this blows my mind because it's common. I mean, it's so obvious, isn't it? Like, we should be listening to our bodies, but we don't. We don't have that education and awareness.
Exactly.
And I feel our daughters and our granddaughters will look back at us and say, why didn't they talk about this?
I know. Well, I'm hoping my daughter's generation will be the ones like, of course we're living in sync with our cycle. Like, how do you ever not do this?
Yes,
but I think because society's built around the 24/7, it's built for the men. Let's face it. That is all, you know, the productivity cycle that we're all on
100%.
is the 24-hour cycle. But we have this monthly cycle and nothing is built around that.
So talk
we
us
have
through.
to try and force ourselves into this. And when we're having those ebbs and flows, we're having to just push back all the time to try and still deliver, even when we're like just starting our period and we're like, we just want to slow down a bit, but we just feel like we can't.
Can you talk us through then a brief like cycle for a woman? Like, what does that cycle look like? Because people think we're all the same, we all have our cycles, but you can need something differently, I'm imagining, than another woman would during certain parts of her cycle. Like what you've just said then, some weeks you'll be really pumped and some weeks you'll need chocolate and just lie on the couch and
Which is where I am today.
Yes.
I'll get you some chocolate and some Netflix as well. But talk us through that actual cycle of, a woman. Like, how does that work then?
So I think, and again, so what we're taught in school is the 28 days, which is the average. So a woman's monthly cycle is around 28 days. A healthy cycle is anything from 25 to 35. So that's classed as long as you're, not everyone will hit 28 days. Yeah. The day one is the first day of your bleed. So when people, you might go to the GP and they say, some say, what is day one? Or if you're taking contraception, it's like day one. Day one is the first day that you're having your period actually starts. And then that should be between sort of 3 to 7 days, nice strong flow for a couple of days, then tailing off. And then it's from that sort of day 5 that most people really start to feel their energy start to return. You're then in the follicular phase, your estrogen's on the rise, and you're heading for that mid-cycle point when you actually ovulate, assuming again that you are ovulating. Yeah. Mid-cycle is generally when we feel much more sociable, libido's up, we'll probably feel like connecting, we'll probably feel like being sort of having, nurturing those intimate relationships. That's our ovulation. Now, when we ovulate from a purely biological perspective, our cycle is there to help us reproduce. Now, obviously, women do not want to reproduce every single month, but ultimately that is what our cycle is there for. Yeah. So after we ovulate, our body starts to go into that protective mode. So what we tend to find in that second half of the cycle, which is the luteal phase, we tend to get a bit more like it's that nesting, admin, wrapping stuff up, sort of sorting our shit out, if that makes sense, as we run up to the period where we know we're going to really need to rest and recuperate. And that luteal phase is actually quite a powerful phase. And a lot of women still feel very high energy around that phase until they get to maybe day 25, 26, when most women do start to feel like, I just don't, maybe not feeling like going to like big parties or networking events or things like that.
Or snapping at your husband.
Yeah. The challenge is when that run up to the period can be very challenging, either emotionally or physically. A lot of women get obviously very bad cramping, headaches, migraines, backache, you name it. But the mental symptoms can be really debilitating, because if you're having 5 to 6 days of anxiety and feeling angry and upset, this going inward is very much, you should still feel quite sort of secure in yourself, but just wanting to maybe pull away. We shouldn't be having like drastic mood swings. And there can be so many reasons for this. It can be progesterone might be a bit low, or your estrogen's peaked too much. And this is where you go into the nitty gritty with each client to understand what their cycle's doing. And this is where tracking, all my clients track, regardless of whether they're 22, 42, I get them to track every single month, what's going on, when are these symptoms hitting, when do you feel good as well, when are your good days, when are your less good days, so that they can then look at their calendar and their plan and go, well, I'm not going to plan a dinner party when I know that on that day I'm going to be feeling like I just want to go to bed and just watch a film. And it's having that intuition to allow yourself to do that and plan your time better around that cycle, which for me has been game changing, because I know that when, you know, there's just certain things that I just know I don't want to do. So I make sure that I don't do them, basically.
I love that.
And there must be other factors like, you know, alcohol and food and sleep, everything. I mean, it's such a complex thing,
huge.
isn't it?
And I
Just
think
different things coming in.
a broader part of what I want to be sort of because obviously I'm supporting women one-to-one and obviously trying to do a bit more group work at the minute, but the long game is this women's health messaging that we need to be getting out there. It's obviously the cycle awareness aspect, but like you said, there's a huge rise in, you know, femtech and apps and products and supplements and quick fixes and things that are being pushed, and women are quite rightly going, I'll try that, and not really knowing, did that one work or was it that supplement, or and you've got Slimming World, Weight Watchers, who have very much push that towards women, especially when they get to perimenopause. But what I want to be trying to push is all of the free stuff that takes a bit more time. The diet,
I love that.
making sure you're sleeping.
Sleep, yes.
It's just so many people are not sleeping. And it's free. And it can take a while when you've been, I mean, I was guilty of this, especially when I was in my 20s. You know, you can get away with it then, you know, do 6 hours a night, that's about fine. But now I need 8.5. That's my sweet spot to help me make sure that I wake up feeling really well rested. But yeah, the dietary side, but we're sort of, that doesn't get pushed because it's not very sexy, you know, and it doesn't really make anybody any money by telling people to sleep, eat healthy food and walk, rest and, you know, just
stay off the wine.
No one capitalizes on that. And that's the problem in women's wellness. There's a huge push now on, don't know if anyone follows the Glucose Goddess. She's not specifically women's health, but she's just released an anti-spike product that you eat before you eat cake to make sure you don't get, there's just all that, which I'm sure so many people are like, oh, I'll try that. It's like, just eat cake, it's fine, you know, but don't have cake 3 times a day and make sure you're having some fibre
Everything
and some protein and all the rest of it.
100%. So I'm really, and again, I know Mary, you will be as well, intrigued to what made you venture into this niche then? Like, what was the reason behind that?
So, I mean, I think I became I was very lucky in that, like I said, my periods were very irregular and normal. I went on contraception at 16. I was on that for 16 years. And then I was so lucky that when we started trying for our daughter, she conceived very normally as well, and as we did for our second. But I know so many women who are either they've been on contraception for 10 plus years, they went on it because they had cycle problems. It wasn't just for contraceptive reasons. They went on it because they were having skin breakouts or their periods were really heavy and long. The pill doesn't fix that. It might mask it, and that might be the right thing to do for it for a time. But the number of women who would then go, I'm ready to have a family now. And then they come off the pill or their whatever contraception they're using, and things don't quite kick in again. So I'm just trying to really help women educate themselves on, not saying don't take contraception, but make sure your cycle is working properly, regularly, and there's no underlying issues, especially if you are thinking of planning a family. And if you are, make sure you give yourself a good enough headway to get there, so that you're not, you know, because a lot of women are having children later now. A lot of women are having children in their mid-late 30s. So if you come off the pill at 35, and things do get trickier from about that point. You can absolutely have children, you know, many years after that, but it's not quite as the risk factors go up, and it can be a bit trickier. So it's just helping women. I think it's almost not seeing their hormones as like an adversary, which I think is a lot of the narrative, is that hormones are causing all these problems. My hormones are causing, she's hormonal, and all the, you know, it's a time of the month, don't go near it, all that kind of stuff, which I know we sort of laugh about, but Unfortunately, women's health has been,
No.
it's been mocked. Our cycle has been mocked. Like it's an inconvenience that we must deal with. But I'm trying to help women really get on board with the fact that it actually brings so much power and opportunity. And if you're working with it, then it brings us gifts that men don't get.
100%.
So that's the driver. And I don't want my daughters to have the same sort of negative experience. I want them, obviously I'll be banging on about their cycle as soon as they're old enough.
I love that.
But
so
I don't
much,
want them to go in and have, with fear and it's, like I said, it's an inconvenience. It's going to stop me doing things. I don't want them to have that narrative in their head when they get to their teens.
In Pakistan, when a girl gets a period, it's celebrated. So you get gold jewelry from your family.
Why don't we do that?
I know, right?
Why would that's incredible. I mean, it's so different, isn't it?
And because you become a woman and you get a bit of jewelry from your grandmother and some clothes from your mom. So you become a woman now.
Yeah.
How
Whereas a lot of
amazing
people
is that?
here, they get pointed to the bathroom cabinet and go, the stuff's in there. Go and,
my journey to
work
your
out what to
journey
do.
is completely opposite. I was barely told anything and sort of had to do it like not on my own. So obviously I had an older sister and I've got my mum, but it was very much not talked about.
Yeah.
So now even with my 8-year-old, because I know periods are starting a lot earlier now, aren't they?
Yeah.
I have those conversations with her. And I think this is a great opportunity for people to know that leading ladies in business, if you do want to bring any sanitary products to any of our networking events or to the podcast, then we do take them into schools as well. We buy things personally and we take them in, and my daughter helps me pack them. So we pack them in a little bag. There's only 3 in a little pack, so girls can go to the school office and they can just ask for one.
Yeah.
But we do it in a lovely little bag, but we put an empowering sticker on it.
That's incredible.
So there's like a little empowering message
so
on it.
good.
And Aurora, my little girl, sat with me and we did hundreds of these little packs. And she said, well, what are these for? And I did feel, I'm not going to lie, I did feel uncomfortable talking about it at first. But then the more I had that conversation, I was like, no, this is empowering. So when we talk about it now, she knows what a period is. She knows what, that this is going to come in the future and it will be celebrated. It won't be something that we hide away from.
And the day
my
she
husband
gets
will
it, she
probably
won't be
move
like,
out.
oh my God, what's going on? And it should be something like looking forward to it, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. She'd be like,
why not?
where's the gold? Mary says it's getting gold. Like, where is this
I'm definitely going to get my girls presents.
Yeah, I love that. Amazing.
We're starting a new tradition.
Yes, I love that. That's incredible.
Yeah. If you could be remembered for one thing, what would that be?
I think it would probably be, just championing women's health in a really positive light. Yeah. I think even though it's getting talked about a lot more, what I'm still seeing is just this undercurrent of negativity. Even all the talk on perimenopause, it's all over the place, but it's still very just symptom focused and HRT focused. It's like all the things, diet, addressing your relationships with alcohol and caffeine and sleep and your boundaries, which is a huge one, which women are dreadful at generally in terms of having good boundaries on there.
I actually put a post on this morning about boundaries, and about how. So the question I asked my audience on my therapy page was, what do you need to put in place? Like, what boundary do you need to put in place to have better mental health and well-being? And I'm interested to find out what what people say.
Exactly. So I think just making women's health a positive topic, and it doesn't have to be rocket science to do this stuff. Like you said, a lot of this stuff is free. It's very accessible. It doesn't mean you need to spend a fortune on products and anything like that. It's just, it does take that focus though on the basics, because they can be hard to do day after day when you have a busy job and a family and everything else, and going, I'm still going to get 8.5 hours sleep. I could just log on and do a bit more work. And it's really having, I think, just presenting all of that stuff to women and realising that it is very much within their grasp. Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. And not being apologetic for how you're feeling as well.
Absolutely not.
As a woman, if you are feeling, I always say, if you are feeling angry, you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling excited and happy, that's great, because
all emotions
it means you're human. And I'm not working with a robot, whether that's a 7-year-old. And try telling a 7-year-old nowadays that it's okay to feel angry. They go, oh,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
it? Is it
Yeah.
okay? Yeah, it's the behavior that comes after the emotion.
Absolutely.
That's what we need to address. So
Definitely.
as long as you're taking care of yourself when you are not feeling great and you are listening to your body, and you are putting yourself as a priority, because as women, we don't tend to do that, especially mothers. We go, oh, mum guilt kicked in.
100%.
Like, we should not be
1000%.
doing that for ourselves. What should we be doing for our children? Who do we need to pour to next? And it's got to stop.
I know.
Like, we've got
if you
to
ask
stop.
someone, if you had like 2 hours to yourself, what would you do? They're just like, I have no idea. Fold some laundry? No, that's not allowed. You have to do something for yourself.
Yeah.
And we're just,
Yeah.
a lot of women don't have, one thing that men are really good at, actually, my husband's really good at this, is they're quite good at taking their own time.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and exercise. I'm going to play on the computer for a bit just to unwind. I'm going to go and do this.
100%.
Whereas women, they're like, if I've got free time, I'll go and tidy up, or I'll go and do a job.
Do you know
We don't think,
when they say,
I'm going to go and like lounge in front of and go and watch a chick flick. We just wouldn't think to be like, that's awful. Should be doing that.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's TMI again, but when men like morning coffee and they go to the toilet and they're in there for like an hour.
What do they do in that toilet? Because
Seriously?
there's
What
no
are they?
way.
Can you imagine doing the same thing? During the morning
If
school
I sat in the toilet for 40 minutes, there'd be a search party out for me.
Yeah.
We just have the kids going, Mummy, you done? Mummy, can I come in?
Yeah, 100%.
I remember being on the toilet, obviously, being a bit personal, but being on the toilet and the lock on my door. Aurora had learned how to open the little lock.
With the clothes. Yes.
That sounds like a horror film.
I was thinking, no way. Like,
You wouldn't do that with Daddy?
She definitely would not do that.
recommend they do that with Daddy. They're too famous.
No,
Stay
no.
away.
Stay away.
Daddy takes his
100%.
headphones in, coffee mug in, magazine in.
Oh no. Oh,
Having a great
no.
time.
Mara, you need some
I know.
boundaries, definitely. Some
100%.
rules in place. Okay, I can see, and obviously our audience can see how passionate you are about what you do. You are so knowledgeable. Like, everything that you've just shared, I'm sitting here now as a woman, as 38-year-old woman, going, wow. So you're not only educating
I'm so
us
glad.
today, you're educating our audience as well.
Yeah.
But talking about education, if you could spill the tea with anyone, it could be an educator, a film star, a family member, anyone at all, who would you choose and why?
So I've been, because I do listen to quite a lot of podcasts. I don't know if anyone's heard of Best Friend Therapy.
No.
Is it
Elizabeth Day
okay?
and her best friend Emma Terrell, and they cover all sorts of topics on boundaries, rejection, anger, just topics that I think for me right now are really resonating as someone who has a lot on her plate and has family. I mean, she's an author. She writes amazing books, but her podcast has just been an absolute lifesaver. And I'd be very, she'd be an awesome one to speak to.
Wow. And what was that called again? What was the podcast called?
Best Friend Therapy.
Best Friend
I'd recommend it.
going on our list.
Everybody.
Going on our to watch list, definitely. Okay.
Oh, brilliant.
So on the show, we have a closing tradition. And I'm really interested to find out your answer to this. But how would you make the perfect cup of tea?
So, tea bag in. Choose a nice mug. I always find a mug impacts the enjoyment.
What,
So
what
like
tea
a nice
bag
mug.
would you go for?
Yeah.
Here's what?
What tea bag would you go for?
PG tips.
Good answer.
Tea bag in, hot water in. Squeeze it round quite a lot. I don't leave it in there for very long, but I sort of pummel the tea bag. Tea bag out.
Yeah.
And then add the milk slowly.
There you
and
go.
I do like quite
There
a
you go.
builder's coloured brew, actually.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Cal's winning
I
this.
know, another
Yeah.
team Cal.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did not expect that.
Yeah. I think it's me.
Like I
I
said,
think
no
I
milk
should just
on the
keep
tea
coming.
bag. I just think
No
that's
milk
just
on the tea bag.
bizarre.
Well, you're a PG tipper, so I get that 100%. If you were a Yorkshire tea, then maybe that Yorkshire tea can stand the milk. Like, it's okay, it's safe. But no, thank you so much, and thank you for sharing such wisdom with us.
We've learned so much.
Yeah, and I think it's something that we're not only going to take back to our daughters, but everybody watching, you know, are going to take that into their future. I can't wait to.
Amazing. I'm so glad, and thank you for having me.
No,
It's been
you're
really
very
good.
welcome.
Really
Thank
fun.
you. Amazing. Thank you.